Sampung kandidato ang nagnanais maging Pangulo ng ating Republika. Siyam na personalidad ang naghahangad na mahalal bilang pangalawang Pangulo. Sa dami at hirap ng mga suliranin na dinaranas ng ating bansa, sila ang nangangako ng mga lunas. Sino sa kanila ang dapat nating paniwalaan? Sino sa kanila ang dapat nating pagkatiwalaan? Inihahandog ng Radyo 5, 92.3 News FM, simulcast sa 1PH on Signal TV. Serve the people. Sino ang karapat-dapat sa boto ng Pilipino?
Mga kapatid, sa oras nga po na 8:38, kandidato sa pagkapangulo, tumatakbong independent, 73 taong gulang mula po sa Davao City, isang negosyante, pastor at dating spokesman ng Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Naging undersecretary din ng Department of Foreign Affairs noong taong 2018. Magandang umaga po, Mr. Ernie Abella.
Magandang umaga rin sa iyo, DJ Chacha.
Good morning po, Sir Ernie. Ito nga po, ang pagkakataon po ninyo para magpakilala po sa taong bayan, sa lahat po ng mga nanonood at nakikinig sa atin ngayon. Sino po ba si Ernie Abella aside dun sa mga nasabi ko kanina? At ano po ang inyong plataporma at plano sa bayan kung sakaling kayo po ay manalo sa pagkapangulo?
Katulad ng nasasabi ko kadalasan, isang ordinaryong mamamayan lang naman ako. Pero nakita ko sa hinahaba ng panahon, experience ko, na ang pinagmumulan ng problema na kahit na anong institusyon, whether it's religion, education, or business, or government, ang pinagmumulan talaga niyan tao. So, ang mangyayari niyan, ang solusyon, tao rin. So, ang plataforma po natin, DJ Cha, is basically very simple. No? It's a very simple platform, pero konektado lahat. No? Ang nakikita natin, for example, ay ang pananaw talaga natin na magkaroon talaga tayo ng breakthrough as a nation, no? Na maging isang makatarungan, mapayapa at masayang bayan. Ang magiging manifestation nito is para sa nakikita natin is could be the beginning of the Philippine century, na magkaroon tayo ng isang tinatawag natin na siglo Pilipino, na kung saan ang yung malaking agwat between rich and poor ay lumiit o kundi eliminated, at saka yung mga 12.5 million katao na natutulog gabi-gabi na gutom ay ma-eradicate natin, at saka magkaroon tayo ng gobyerno na talagang tinututukan at hindi na tayo naghahabol, for example, ng foreign direct investments, kundi talagang ang ating pinagmumula ng ating industriya, ng ating kita, ng ating pera, ay magmumula sa ating mga tinatawag natin, yung ating definition of a comparative advantage. Like for example, hindi lang tayo supplier ng raw materials, kundi tayo gumagawa, for example, ang ating talagang pinaka-flagship, DJ Cha, is agriculture, na magkaroon tayo ng isang agricultural powerhouse. Yun ang ating inaasam-asam at doon natin dinidikit, no? By having an agricultural powerhouse, i-connect natin ito sa ating mga universities, sa ating mga estudyante, sa research and development, na kung saan yung mga kabataan na nawawala na ng gana sa agriculture, ay makikita nila na pwede pala magkaroon, no, ng career, magkaroon ng future through agriculture. Pangalawa, of course, is manufacturing. No, we can manufacture our own goods, our own fertilizers. We can manufacture our own yung ating mga binhi, yung ating sariling binhi. Kasi at this stage, ang nangyayari talaga ini-import lahat. But part of that, of course, was policy decision na magkaroon tayo we will import. No, paano mo in fact, I was talking with one consultant. Sabi niya, yung kasi ating mga farmers hindi na competitive, no? Rice farmers daw natin para maturuan maging competitive. Pero how can you compete, no? Because For example, yung rice farmers ng Vietnam tsaka Thailand, lahat sila government subsidized. Yung ating tao naman, they're left on their own. So we need to change that. We need to change that perspective. At magkaroon magkaroon tayo ng sense na suportahan natin sarili nating tao. For so long kasi, alam ko na ang isang purpose, isang goal ng bayan is to survive. But we don't want to just survive, we want to flourish. And so ito yung plano natin na itong isang matugunan ito. How do we do these things, Cha? We do this with three things. But number one, kailangan talaga we don't put all our hopes, no? We don't put all our hopes on the presidency or on the government leaders. Kailangan talaga sumali ang ating mga mamamayan. We want them to join in the running, in the building of a nation. Ang tawag natin sa pillar na ito, Cha, is patas na lipunan. Patas na lipunan, ibig sabihin, kailangan sumali ang kailangan sumali ang civil society, for example, para ma-rebalance natin yung power. Yung power na nasa gobyerno, power nasa big business. I mean, I'm not just talking about micro, small, and medium enterprises. I'm talking about yung oligarchical business, yung malalaki. Pero kailangan talaga i-balance natin para magkaroon din ng advantages ang ating mga micro, small, and medium enterprises. At lalo na yung ating ang plano talaga natin ay paigtingin talaga to create agriculture and to become a agricultural powerhouse para magkaroon ng pagkain, food security of course, and then secondly magkaroon tayo ng revenue dito from the rural sector. Pangatlo, 3 and 4 of course is gusto nating tugunan din natin education and nating health services. Pero yung education, katulad ng ini-explain ko kanina, kailangan talaga siyang kailangan talagang we need a fundamental, radical shift in ating thinking, no? For example, we need to emphasize more our STEM, yung ating science, technology, engineering, and math. Para, kasi pag na-develop natin to, there will be more challenge yung ating thinking, challenge yung ating research, and when magkakaroon tayo ng more innovation, and when there is more innovation, we will have more productivity, and more productivity means more jobs, more jobs and so people will not be leaving the country anymore. Yun yung kumbaga, but of course in the medium term, but in the long term, itong plano natin gawin talaga is in our time, in our administration, ay magkaroon talaga ng fundamental shift ang Pilipino. This is a foundational work. Nakikita ko ang pagbabago ng Pilipino, pag gusto natin, our administration will stand for renewal, transformation, magmula from intense corruption, intense yung ating great inequality, yung pagkawala ng trust sa gobyerno, yung pagkawala ng ating patriotism, ay matugunan yan basically by dealing with people, involving people, wanting people to become more involved. Hinahamon natin mga tao natin to be more involved. Talking about hamon, ang pangatlo is gusto natin na matatag na bayan. So number one, patas na lipunan. Pangalawa, gobyernong nararamdaman. Pangatlo is matatag na bayan. A resilient nation. Paano ba nagiging resilient ang isang bayan? Of course, by having adequate responses to challenges, no? Paano nagkakaroon ng adequate responses to challenges? Katulad ng ibang bayan o katulad na sabihin natin sa nangyayari let's say sa Ukraine. Akala nung kanyang kapitbahay madali lang niyang makukuha itong Ukraine. Pero it turns out na lumaban talaga ang Ukraine. Bakit yun? Because their people love their country. Because their people love their nation. At pag naisoli natin ang pagmamahal sa bayan, ay kaya nating itaas uli ang ating dignidad, kaya nating itaas uli yung lakas ng loob para ipaglaban ang bayan. Itaas natin hindi lang ang ipaglaban ang bayan kontra sa ibang mga bayan, kundi ipaglaban natin against our war against poverty, inequality, and injustice. So paano yan? Number one, itong matatag na bayan, gusto natin talaga is not just to, of course, build the structures, build the resiliency structures, pero importante, gusto nating ma-involve yung ating missing middle, no? The ages between 18 to 35, even to 45, where we challenge our these young people, well, up to 35 young people, na that they will devote at least a year to 2 years of their lives to government. That mag-devote sila ng kanilang i-devote nila ang kanilang magbigay sila ng volunteer service. Of course, we'll give them allowances and stuff like that. But we want them to become part of nation building. Paano? By strengthening the next generation. If they help strengthen the next generation, they will stand alongside, for example, those who are primary and secondary students, maturuan sila ng mastery. Alam nyo, ang baba talaga na natin, ang layo natin sa mga academic performances, no? And ang nawawala talaga is, for example, critical thinking and mastery of the basics, for example, reading, writing, arithmetic, no? Nawawala yun. So what we'd like to do is challenge our yung magagaling natin, yung medyo proven na, and then to stand alongside our next generation and become tutors and become models and become mentors. Meron tayong parang ate kuya program. So kumbaga, we want people to be participating, and we're also preparing the next generation to be participating, and then sumali sila, lumahok sila sa pagbubuo ng bayan in the task of nation building. The first work of civil society, the first work of people is to be able to get involved at the very basic local level. Ano yung basic local level? Sa local government level. Alam mo, meron kasing may puwang talaga sa local government level na kung saan 25% of the nagpa-participate in looking after the local governance, ay yung 25% niyan is supposed to be coming from the local populace, coming from the local citizenry. And then ang trabaho nila is basically to look after the law enforcement, and one crucial thing, this will be ang ating susi against corruption, is that they will be able to look into the bids and awards being offered sa local government. For example, may project, may building, may infrastructure, may bagong services. Titingnan nila kung kung tama ba yung yung polisiya, tama ba yung implementation rules and regulations. Titingnan nila yung implementation all the way to the output, and so that makita natin, so that we'll be able to somehow prevent largely, a large part of corruption. So ang part talaga ng itong ating administrasyon is basically to get people involved in the renewal of the nation. Get people involved. Hindi lang yung basta, sige, kayo na yan. So, katulad itong
Apo.
Yes.
Yes, I hope you don't mind if I interrupt si Ted Filon po.
No,
Apo,
I was beginning to miss you, Ted.
Maayong buntag po, sir. Good morning.
May buntag.
Apo. I mean, it's really so nice to hear some people like you na articulate po sa kanilang gustong mga sabihin. And then kaya nga po napakainam din po na sana po kami makapagtanong na ngayon na unawaan po namin ang inyong inilatag nga po na malawak po at plataporma na kaiga-igaya, because definitely po, sabi nga ninyo, kinakailangan pong palakasin ang ating agrikultura. Sir, ito lang po, ngayon pa lang po marami nang natatanong sa amin dito. Kasi nga po, sir, with all due respect, hindi pa ho kayo ganong kakilala ng napakarami hong mga botante. Ang katanungan po nila is, talaga ho bang before kayo nag-file ng COC po ninyo Ernie, kayo ho ba'y nag-isip ho talaga at pinaghandaan nyo ba itong inyong paktakbo bilang Pangulo?
Alam mo, Ted, from 2016, I had a sense that I was going to be involved in government. This was before I was asked na bago ako natawag to be spokesperson. Ngayon, nung napasok ko, sabi ko, mukhang yung sense natin ay mukhang tama. Pero hindi ko trinabaho siya in the sense na nangampanya ko, gumawa ko ng makinarya, hindi. Akin lang talaga, ang ginawa ko, pumasok ako kung saan bumubukas ang oportunidad. And, so basically, kung tinatanong mo kung pinaghandaan ko ito, I suppose, if experience is going to be, pinaghandaan means experience, napaghandaan natin. I was 18 years a pastor, 20 years educator, 20 years, tawag nito, sa credit cooperative. I was a social entrepreneur. I was in advertising nga pala in Makati for 5 years. And then, of course, 5 years in government. Alam mo, so kumbaga nakita ko na there are certain basic things, Ted, no, that really help. Part of it is, of course, is that the insight that basically problems are created by people. Like, for example, poverty. Hindi naman swerte yan eh. Hindi siya swerte. It's made by bad policy. So in terms of pinaghandaan, yes.
Opo. So kung ito po yung pinaghandaan ninyo, I presume honestly that you're running to win.
Of course.
So if you're running to win, Sir Ernie, ano ho yung ginagawa para ho kayo in 62 days, no? Ngayon, bago po May 9, because the number one na criteria, no, for you to be able to win is for people to know that you exist, meaning yung awareness po ninyo. People will not vote for
Correct.
you if they don't know that you exist. So, what are you doing now for people to know that you exist?
For example, I come out on Ted Filon's show. Yan, ang dami kasi, it may not be the traditional way. For example, tinanong nga ako, Ted, kung meron ba daw akong at least 1 billion, tsaka meron ba akong makinarya. Pero, that was when I started. Actually, when nagsimula ako noong October 8, noong nag-file ako, yun ang pinaka-start. But then, there are certain, fortuitous turn of events. For example, one event is the SMNI. SMNI. Suddenly, in one of those shows, there were 14 million views.
Opo.
You don't sneeze at that, hindi ba? So suddenly, dati Ted, pag lumabas ako, wala, para lang akong dumaan na langaw, no? Pero ngayon, for example, I've been yesterday I was Baler, today I'm in Cabanatuan. Alam mo, binabati ako ng mga kargador. Binabati ako ng mga taxi driver, binabati ako ng mga repairman. Suddenly nakilala nila ako. So kumbaga, may mga events na may mga events na fortuitous, serendipitous.
Opo, yes sir. And again, we appreciate nga po na kayo ay umuupo sa aming panayam na ito because this is one way of helping those candidates nga na wala pong kakayahan para po magpa-advertise o kaya nga po ay gumasta ng marami para po sa kanilang awareness campaign. So ngayon, kaninyo na some people are recognizing you, siguro maganda rin katanungan po, Sir Ernie, is sa inyo pong naging panunungkulan sa pamahalaang Duterte sa inyo vis-a-vis sa mga binanggit ninyo, mga programa na dapat niyong gawin para po tayo umunlad at makahango sa kahirapan, ito ho ba'y mga panuntunan at programa na hindi ginawa ng kasalukuyang gobyerno?
Hindi ko naman masasabi na hindi nila ginawa. Binigyan tugon nila. Like, for example, one of the guys running right now for Senate is si Manny Piñol. No? He was there. He was one of the cabinet secretaries. Ngayon, yun din, same programa niya, yun din, base ng pagpapatakbo niya. So, kumbaga, binigyan tugon naman nila. But things being as they are, I suppose, you can only accomplish so much, especially nagbabago yung mga, for example, deeply entrenched na yung mga policies natin as connected with the work, with the bigger forces, So, kumbaga, they did what they could according to the best lights.
Opo. So, puntahan ko lang yung agriculture, si Manny Piñol po nawala sa gabinete at pumalit si William Dar. Kung kayo po kung ang inyo pong plataporma ay naka-focus din sa agrikultura, ano po ang score sa inyo grado ni William Dar? 10 being the perfect, 1 is the lowest.
Well, ganito na lang siguro, I don't know if grading should be the best way of doing it. Pareho naman sila nag-ooperate on separate ways. Pero right now, ang nadidinig ko talaga yung mga programa ni Manny Piñot, no? Nakikita ko, marami siyang mga sinasabi. So, and then, kung magtatrabaho tayo together, we'll have to make a choice, we'll have to make a choice. Of course, ang sabi ni PRRD, iririgalo doon niya yung next, yung kabinete niya sa next administrator, sa next administration. So, I don't think, it's not, siguro parang apples and oranges yan, Ted.
Okay. Opo, we understand. Sige po. So, rice tariffication law, ano ang inyong tingin po doon? Ito ba'y talagang dapat po natin baguhin at hindi po ito ipatupad?
Depende kung baguhin, pero siguro ang point ko dito, Ted, siguro we really kailangan talagang bigyan support ang agriculture, even the rice farmers, Kasi it doesn't make sense na for example, yung sinasabi na mas mura naman yung mas mura yung ang tawag nito, mas mura yung Thailand, mas mura yung Vietnam na mga palay. That is a point of view, that is an economic point of view, no? Pero kung talagang depende sa ating bottom lines, for example, yung bottom lines naman hindi lang GDP, Ted, alam mo naman yan, di ba? Ang bottom line talaga natin, well, from where I'm coming from, Ted, 4. Number 1, ang kita natin dapat tao, people, planet, profit, and then purpose. I don't think, mahirap na gumawa ka ng polisiya na kontra sa tao. At the end of the day, para kanino ba naman yung kinikita mo? Para kanino ba yung economic growth mo? Hindi lang naman para sa isang maliit na grupo who own about 90% of the Philippines. Hindi, pero technically, but in practice, dyan tumutungo, So, I think we need to rebalance the equation. Na dapat, asikasuhin natin yung tao. So kung yung regarding the rice tariffication, dapat pangalagaan. I believe dapat pangalagaan ating mga farmers, dapat pangalagaan ang ating mga agrikultura, and dapat bigyan tugon.
Because siguro Sir Ernie, bago po yung tanong ni Chacha, kasi po sa rice tariffication law, klaro ho naman liberalisasyon ng rice importasyon. Wala na itong limit as long as you pay the tariff. Yun po yun. Basically po, yun ang reklamo ng ating mga magbubukid. How can you compete na mataas ang cost of production dito and then yung imported, magbayad ka lang ng tariff, pasok na po sa bansa. So yun po ang talagang basic component po ng rice tariffication law. It's either you are in favor of it or hindi po. Nais nyo itong paamyendahan at hindi na po ito ipatupad. Ano ho bang yung damdamin tong ka-Ernie?
Gusto natin paamyendahan yan, for example.
Okay.
Siyempre kasi kung magbabayad ka lang ng taripa, pabor sa kapitalista yan, di ba?
Opo, sige po. Chuck, go ahead.
Good morning po ulit, Ka-Ernie. I'm
Yes,
just wondering, kailan po kayo huling nag-usap ng Pangulong Duterte at anong naging reaksyon niya sa pagtakbo niyo po bilang Pangulo ng Bansa?
Actually, nagpaalam ako sa kanya the week of October 3 to 8 yata yun, those days. Pero hindi kami nakapag-usap, idinaan ko lang kay SBG, Senator Bongo. So, pero sumagot naman siya, in effect, nung sinabi ko, nagpaalam ako, nagpaalam na tatakbo ako, very naman siya, very accommodating. Wala naman siya sinabi, hindi wala siya sinabi against.
So no reply po nung nagpaalam kayo sa Pangulo?
Nag-reply si SBG, sabi niya, okay, nasabi ko na kay PRRD.
Bakit po idinaan niyo pa kay Senator Bongo? Wala po ba kayong direct access sa Pangulo?
Technically, everybody has direct access to him, pero kaya lang, dami niyang ginagawa during that time. So, kalagitnaan ng nung filing of candidacies, and apparently marami siyang inaasikaso. So, din ako kay Senator.
Sir, before po ba, bago po ang inyong desisyon na tumakbo sa pagkapangulo, naimbitahan din po ba kayo ng PDP laban na sumama po sa kanilang partido? At naalok din po ba kayo ng ibang posisyon? Aside from, bago po kayo nag-decide to run?
Wala namang naalok sa akin. Walang naalok sa akin. At that time kasi I was nandun ako sa Foreign Affairs,
Kayo nga po ay nagsilbi under Duterte administration. You were once a spokesman, naging DFA undersecretary din po kayo. Yung klase po ba ng governance style na aasahan ng taong bayan po mula sa inyo, is it the same kagaya po ng Duterte administration?
Magkaiba kami ng style ni President Duterte. Although we have the same vision, no? In the sense na you want a comfortable life for all. Ito naman galing din sa Ambition 2014, di ba? But you want a comfortable life for all. You want inclusive prosperity. You want orderly communities. You want peaceful society. Pero yung style ko is more consultative. I would be more consultative. I would listen more. It's going to be just a little bit slower, but I think pero we can keep things moving forward. Pero magkaiba kami ng style. Si President Duterte is a force of nature, hindi ba? Outside yung personality niya, I tend to be more consultative.
So sabi niyo po you would listen more. Sa tingin niyo po ba dun sa 6 na taon na panunungkulan ng Pangulong Duterte, hindi siya masyadong nakikinig sa kanyang cabinet secretaries or dun po sa kanyang mga advisors?
Alam mo, nakikinig siya. Kaya lang, pinagsalita siya, usually sinasabi niya, bunga na napakikinig niya yun. So kumbaga, yun siyempre yung style niya lang of communicating. Minsan siguro because he's very forceful, hindi siya lagi intindihan. Pero usually, ang bunga ng kanya pakikinig.
Okay. Sir, punta po tayo sa... Yes, sir. You were saying something po?
No, I was just going to say na hindi masyadong public yung kanyang listening style. Hindi public.
Sir, punta tayo sa war on drugs po ng Pangulong Duterte. You said in one of your interviews na itutuloy niyo po ang kanyang war on drugs, pati po ang build program ng current administration, pero ibang approach po ang gagawin ninyo. Anong specific approach po ang iibahin nyo dito po sa nagawa ng war on drugs and build program ng administrasyong ito?
Yung for example, di ba, at a certain stage, yung patapos na yung over the past, tuloy-tuloy naman yung war on drugs, but there are less complaints, there are less, na hindi sila nabibigla. But kumbaga, just a systematic, rules-based approach. But making sure, itong may iba nito is because we make sure na yung, for example, yung mga natugunan should be brought to justice as swiftly as possible. Hindi na paantayin ko. So we might have some, fast courts, no? Pero tapos yung build naman, tuloy-tuloy lang din natin yung pagbibuild ng struktura. Pero also, what we want to do is also build the next generation. Gusto natin, for example, education. We want to build the next generation, not just infrastructure, but we want to build the human resources. We want to build our natural resources. Kasi, for example, kung mag-observe ka around, yung ating malalaking, for example, the big neighbor that we have, ang kanilang basis talaga for expansion, hindi lang structure, tao. And they want excellent people. And pwede natin matatalino Pilipino. But we just want to upgrade what we can do. For example, mas malaki ang science, technology, engineering, math. Doon natin itingin, no? So that yung tao natin talagang become research-oriented, scientifically oriented, and innovative. Kasi innovativeness is going to be the basis for productivity. Yes, Ted?
Opo, sige po. So we are going to take a short break po, Sir Ernie. At sa ating pagbabalik po, ilang pang katanungan ng ating mga viewers. And then our next question po from us here is that ngayon po, kung kayo nakaupo ngayon sa Malacanang, how will you address this problem? Ito pong patuloy na pagtaas sa presyo ng petroleum products na ngayon nga po ay nakaka-apekto na po sa ating inflation. Abangan po ninyo ang aming pong pagpapatuloy ng panayam kay Ginoong Ernie Abella. Balot number 1 sa balota po sa Mayo 9 para ho sa pagkapangulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas. Ating balikan si Ginoong Ernie Abella, kandidato sa pagkapangulo. Ang kanyang numero sa balota ay number 1. 73 anyos, tubong Davao City. Again, maayong buntag ka, Ernie. Good morning po.
Maayong buntag, Ted.
Apo. Okay, so sir, kung kayo po ang nakaupo sa Malacanang ngayon, how will you address this problem now? Ito pong patuloy na pagtaas sa presyo ng petroleum products.
Una-una, meron tayong palugit, meron tayong buffer, no? Meron tayong buffer about 30 to 40 days yata yun as far as I know. Pero pangalawa, we should start already examining mga alternative situations katulad ng ano. Ang isa talaga na nabanggit yata ni Secretary Cusi ay kausapin natin ang Iran, for example, na kasi meron din naman malaki din naman yung kanilang malaki yung kanilang reserves, no, at pwede natin sila makausap. Aside from that, of course, second and third options ay in the medium and the long term ay dapat nagde-develop na talaga tayo ng renewables. Katulad nung alam mo andun kami sa Pantabangan kahapon, Ted, ang ganda pala ng lugar na yun, pero wala ng tubig halos. So it may also be a necessity soon na dapat gumawa tayo ng more dams. We might have to create more dams. Of course, kailangan malalim-lalim yung pakikipag-usap natin sa ating mga komunidad, no? Pero by necessity, we just have to we just have to keep evolving, no? So we can develop locally with more dams, we can develop renewable energies, and then of course, in the shortish term, dapat ini-examine na natin yung possibility of importing from Iran.
Opo, okay. So that's for I think energy, kuryente ang inyong binabanggit plus yung nga pong usapin ng petrolyo. Are you in favor of going back to the regulated regime ng oil?
Hindi, not necessarily. So, hindi kasi bukas naman ay deregulated, nandito na, no? But we need to, we need to just examine more, we need to examine more alternatives. For example, kasi hindi talaga sustainable yung fossil fuel in the long run. So, dapat yung renewables, we should be investing in that at pumapasok naman na siya. Mm-hmm. And katulad nun, yung for example, solar energy, wind energy, but solar, apparently mas malakas. And then, of course, like yung sinabi ko, baka we might need to create more dams.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sige po. Anyway, so Cha, go ahead please. Tanong po ng ating mga tagapakinig at manonood. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Sir, meron po tayong question dito galing kay James Nieves. Nasabi niyo daw po kanina na suportado niyo ang war on drugs. Hahayaan niyo po ba ang ICC na imbestigahan ang war on drugs ng Duterte administration?
Alam mo, yung ICC is not the court of first resort. Ang base talaga ng ICC, katulad ng sinabi ni Secretary Guevara doon sa United Nations. Sabi niya, our courts work. Kailangan lang talaga, kung meron talagang may angal, then we should come out in the open, then we should file false charges here. But our courts work. So, masyado tayong may tendency kasi tayong tumitingin kagad sa ibang tao. No, let's work out our own. Let's work it out here, locally.
Ito po katanungan from Jose Almocera. How can Ernie Abella solve rampant corruptions in departments of the government, whom I think is one of the main problems that cause poverty in our country?
Tama yun. What's the name of the guy who asked? First name lang.
Si Jose po.
Jose, ang sagot ko sa'yo, sumali ka. Sumali ka sa nation building. Ito nga yung challenge natin na sumali kayo sa civil society. Kung talagang tutok ka sa corruption, for example, you're from Novaliches or somewhere there, sabihin mo, concerned citizens of Novaliches kontra corruption. And then you get involved in the local level muna. Kasi kailangan talagang lumahok tayo. Hindi pwedeng by proxy. We cannot do proxy wars in this thing. We have to get involved. Ito nga yung pagbabago. Ito yung pagbabago ang kailangan natin. Like for example, may isang may isang political thinker na nagsabi lately na what we need is a wily Machiavellian leader. I don't think Machiavellian is tuso, no? Hindi ba? So, ang mahalaga siguro, hindi pagkatuso, pero magkaroon lang tayo in a sense na dapat mabago tayo at sumali tayo sa gawain. Sumali tayo sa gawain ng ating bayan. Yun ang kailangan natin. Sumali tayo, not just leave it to other people. Get involved. Let's disenfranchise ourselves from this datu thinking. Kasi masyadong barangay level pa yung pag-iisip natin in a a sense na kailangan si Dato matapang, kailangan ganito. No, sumali tayo. Let's act as a body. Let's act as a collegial body. Kasama tayo, kasama ka. And this is the essence of democracy. Ito nga iniba ng Pilipinas dito sa mga itong Asian countries Kasi ibang Asian countries sanay sila sa strong leader. Tayo nga by force of circumstance, by lack of historical luck, natanggap natin itong democracy. Dito, yun ang natin, kinalakihan natin, yan ang nabigay sa atin. Trabahuin natin. Let's make democracy work for Filipinos. It can work if we take responsibility for it.
Since sa pag-uusapan na po natin dito, binanggit na ni Jose tungkol po sa corruption sa gobyerno, ano pong komento niyo sa Pharmaly issue, sir?
Well, it should be examined kung kailangan ma-examine. Dapat sundan. Finish it to its logical conclusions. That's all I can say. Make it work.
Dati nga po kayong naging spokesperson at bahagi ng Duterte administration. Kung kayo po ay papalaring manalo na Pangulo ng Bansa, meron po ba kayong mga i-appoint muli na cabinet secretaries na mga nakaupo na ngayon sa Duterte administration?
Well, in-offer ni PRD kung pwede itong gamitin. But of course, may plano tayo dyan, Cha, no? We're going to open, there's 6,000 appointed positions, by the way, sa gobyerno. Appointed, no? As opposed to specifically sa executive yan. What we'd like to do is open up with applications. We welcome the best and the brightest, who think they are the best and the brightest. We'd like to welcome them to apply for the jobs from secretary downwards, no? From secretary downwards, ibibet natin to. But basically, we want them to apply. We want them to say, okay, nakikita ko mukhang grabe corruption dyan. Dito, gusto kong pumasok, gusto kong tumulong. Yun ang keyword at this stage, tulong. Hindi kaya yaman sa gobyerno, not with salaries. Hindi pa tayo Singapore level. Pero parating tayo dyan. So we'd like to do that. And then also, by the way, sa civil service, according sa gobyerno, the entire government, apparently may mga 185,000 jobs that are left unfilled. So there are actually jobs in government. Pero kailangan lang talaga, you need to apply. So our challenge is this: apply, get involved, and let's rebuild the nation.
Paano po makakasiguro ang taong bayan na pag kayo po ang nahalal, hindi magkakaroon ng double standard sa inyo pong pamamahala, na talagang ang mga masasangkot at mapapatunayan na mayroong issue ng korupsyon ay mapaparusahan, kaibigan man o kaaway sa politika?
That's why we want to make sure that everything is transparent. That's why may civil society. Sinasabi nga natin, sumali kayo. Para, alam mo, syempre, pag sumali ng civil society, hindi mo naman mapipigilan yan magbunga nga. Hindi ba? They will be quite vocal about their opinions. They will be saying this, they'll be saying that. So, kumbaga, kahit na gusto natin itago, kung meron ka mga planong itago, which I don't, tuloy-tuloy. Tama yon. Walang kapatid, walang kaibigan, walang ganito. Basta if proven guilty, sure, we'll go ahead.
Opo. Tanong po ng ating mga kababayan, sir, ano po ang inyong masasabi with the way this administration is handling our issues with China on the West Philippine Sea?
Alam mo, I was there, no? I was there in China when PRD made his first visit. And I was there in the same room when he suddenly said, this moment on, we're going to separate from so-and-so country and that we're going to, go to China. At grabe yung impact na yun. And people would think, ano ba nangyayari? Why? Now, going back, your question was kung saan ba ako, tama ba yun?
Opo. Ano ho ba ang inyo pong pananaw dito ho sa pag-handle ni Pangulong Duterte sa ating issue with China on the West Philippine Sea?
Actually, West Philippine Sea. Or was it relationships
West Philippine Sea? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Meaning, ano ho ang inyong pananaw kung sa pag-handle po, paghawak ng Pangulong Duterte sa ating pong issue with China sa usapin po ng West Philippine Sea?
This is part and parcel of his understanding. Na actually, we need to have an independent foreign policy. At huwag tayo nakasandal lang sa isang malaking power. Kasi at the end of the day, and I'll tell you what, no, we really need to walk an independent foreign line. Why? Because, alam mo, very crucial ang South China Sea, or what we call West Philippine Sea. But internationally, it's known as South China Sea. And we also need to understand that. Kasi, first and foremost, itong China is protecting its front yard or backyard. And US is also trying to make sure na wala siyang peer competitor, na hindi lang siya na siya lang mag-isa na power, that it wants to retain the unipolar moment. So ngayon, ang sinasabi ko, the independent foreign policy which President Duterte insisted on will actually keep us safe. I'll tell you why. Because if they resort to a limited nuclear war, guess what it will be? It will not be in mainland China, it will not be in the US, it will be in the South China Sea. And guess who's gonna get hurt? The Philippines. Okay, the Philippines. So, if we don't want rockets flying over our head or directly hitting us, we better make sure that we don't become involved in the lovemaking or in the fighting of two elephants.
Opo.
Okay?
Yes, sir. Opo. But while they are lovemaking or fighting, how about the fishermen in the Philippines?
Correct. We need to protect that. We need to make sure, dapat nakikipag-usap tayo ng seryoso sa China, for example.
Apo.
Dapat nakikipag-usap tayo sa kanila. And not only China, by the way, meron pang iba.
Yes,
May ibang
Indonesian.
interest pa.
Opo. Okay. Sir Ernie, ito pa ho, no, katanungan ng ating tagapakinig. Kayo po ay tubong Davao at dyan sa Davao daw po ay pinamumunuan ng dinastiya. What is your take on political dynasty? Ano ho ba kung kayo po'y mauupo? Kayo ho ba'y sasang-ayon sa pamamayagpag ng dinastiya?
Alam mo, it's dynasty, the term dynasty simply means that everything is inherited, hindi ba? Pasa-pasa na lang. But kaya nga sinasabi natin, get involved in civil society. Civil society needs to rise. Kasi at the end of the day, hindi naman tayo royalty, hindi tayo hierarchy. We are a democracy. And if a leader does not perform, and nakabase yan sa civil code, alam mo, ang civil society can kick a sitting official out if they do not do their jobs. Kaya sinasabi ko, ang pinakasusi sa ating liberal democracy is to make sure that the civil society joins. Alam nyo, we're going to be voting for our future next 6 years. Nasa atin yan. Gustuhin ba natin magpatuloy ngayon? O gustuhin ba natin may pagbabago? Kung gusto natin ng pagbabago, let's make sure that we get involved. Civil society. Civil society is not just about once a year, once every 6 years. Civil society is about getting involved every single day.
Opo. Okay. At tanong po kay Chacha before our last two questions, sir. Go ahead.
Si Amazing Moy, sabi po on YouTube, hindi ba pakawala ng administrasyon si Mr. Abella para hatiin lang ang boto na maaaring papabor sa presidentiable na patagong sinusuportahan ng administrasyong Duterte?
Masasabi ko dyan, ang taas ng paningin mo sa akin, which I appreciate. Hindi, parang napaka-deadly ko, no? Honestly, what can a 73-year-old guy do, huh? But I have something that I can share with you. I have the wisdom of the ages and the wisdom of perspective. And this is what I offer you. Not to divide votes. In fact, I should consolidate votes.
Last two questions from our netizen, si Danny Rodriguez. Sabi niyo po dapat sumali ang civil society. Ngayon sumasali ang civil society pero nare-red tag naman. Ano po ang reaksyon niyo tungkol doon?
At itayuan nyo, sabihin nyo, hindi ako komunista. It's just a question of conversation. Have a dialogue. Come on, guys, grow up.
Paano po daw ho naman ito hong pamamayagpag ng mga disinformation daw po sa social media, sir, na kung saan po naman ang iba ho ay gumagasta ng malaki para po sirain ang iba o kaya po naman ay baguhin daw hong kasaysayan?
Well, I'll tell you what. If you notice that, then do something about it. Do something about it. Let's, alam mo yung minsan kasi sometimes we spend so much time on emotion, Let's just be more cold-blooded about the whole thing. Kung talaga may problema, then do something about it. End it.
Ano daw ho ang dapat gawin sa do something about it, Sir Ernie?
Iboto si Abella.
Alright. So,
Pero,
eto ho, no. So, ang tanong ho naman dito ho ng iba, kung hindi daw po tumakbo si Abella,
Yan.
sino ho ang inyong ibobotong Pangulo? Doon ho sa matitirang siyam.
Well, at this stage, that is an academic question. Kasi tumatakbo ko, no? So, I will vote for Abella. Come on, guys!
Kung hindi daw po kayo, kung hindi daw po kayo, tumatakbo ngayon, meron ba ho ba kayo
Correct.
doon sa siyam?
Kaya nga lang, Kaya nga lang, theoretical question yan, Ted.
Opo.
I would vote for you.
Sana nga. Sana nga. Opo. Sige, anyway. Last two and then ang ating final question. Go ahead.
Dati po kayong spokesperson ng Pangulong Duterte. Kung kayo ay mahahalal na Pangulo, sino po ang kukunin yung spokesperson? Si Secretary Harry Roque din po ba?
Hindi na. Hindi ba? Wala na siya dyan.
Si
Andun
Sal
na siya sa
Panelo po,
Senado.
sir. Si Sal Panelo.
Ganun din yata. I think he'll also be there. But I'll tell you what, meron ako naiisip mga bata. I want a team of young guys, young guy, girl, and an experienced person, preferably somebody from the DFA. Yun ang pinanggalingan ko. Hindi ba? And then some, and then we'll have a team of spokespersons who are tutok sa mga clusters. It will be cluster based. Napag-isipan ko na yan. At least that aspect, napag-isipan ko na yan. Huwag lang sa isang spokesperson, pero maybe a team of three.
Opo.
Team of three under
Opo.
one press secretary.
Okay. Ito ho yung final question before the final ho coming from us here. Ito ho galing pa rin po sa ating pong text line naman. Sabi ho dito, mawalang galang lang Mr. Abella, iniisip namin sa mga tulad ninyo na tumatakbo na panggulo lang, kumbaga nuisance lang, dahil nga sa alam naman ninyo na hindi kayo mananalo. Ano ba ang mensaheng gusto ninyong iwan sa amin sa inyong ginawang yan? Ano ho inyong sagot nun, sir?
Ang masasabi ko lang dyan is every vote counts. And then, I'd like to tell that guy, whoever that was, you try being the man in the arena and then find out what kind of answer you will give. Honestly, sa loob ko, wala. Masaya ako. Ginawa ko yung alam kong dapat kong gawin. Alam mo, yung mga ganun, these are rather juvenile questions. That's the kind of questions that you get when people are not involved. If he got involved, his questions would change.
Okay. Sige po. So ito ho ang ating katanungan ngayon, Sir Ernie. Opo,
Yes, sir.
sa pagkapangulo, sino ang karapat-dapat sa boto ng Pilipino?
Ernie Abella.
Opo. Ginoong Ernie Abella, thank you for your time, sir. We wish you good luck. Godspeed, sir.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you for this. Thank you for giving me airtime. Thank you, DJ Cha, for
Thank
all
you,
the
sir.
airtime.
Opo. You're welcome,
For
sir.
people like me who don't have the budget.
Opo. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Again, Godspeed, sir. Thank you.
Ted Filon at DJ Chacha. Ngayon, nasa Radyo 5, 92.3 News FM. Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 a.m.